last time I spoke with you was in Bandung in January, so about 3 or 4 months ago. Other issues, Q&A at the end, and I hope similarly to the last meeting, you will have lots of difficult questions, especially because my boss is here this time, so he's watching how I perform. So just for those of you who haven't seen ASI until now, just one slide. So we provide assurance services for leading sustainability, environment and social sustainability schemes. We have started with FSC, and we have gradually increased our standard portfolio. The latest one that's in the pipeline is the Sustainable Biomass Partnership, which is going to come on board in the next couple of months. For more information, there's lots of information on our website, so please do check and visit the website for the details. A couple of updates. A few days ago, I think, we have published our 2015 report, which is also our 10th annual report. So you can see basically how ASI, if you have a bit of time, flick through how ASI went from conducting 77 assessments in 2006 for FSC to conducting nearly 500 assessments last year for all those schemes that I have listed on the first slide. So there's been a very interesting growth, and our organization has grown, and the capacity obviously has increased. So lots of information in the report if you have time for it. The next issue that I think is going to be very useful for you to be aware of, because we had a long discussion in January, the new procedure on witness and compliance assessment has been published. It is available on our website. This describes how we conduct compliance and witness assessment. Obviously, it's sort of the bread and butter of what we do when it comes to these assessments. So please check it. It is a final document at the moment, but if you have sort of questions or comments, I am very, very happy to sort of answer the questions if you have later on today. The other element that I wanted to mention is that the new fee schedule became effective from the 1st of March 2015. This was published last year. There's a couple of changes compared to the previous one that mainly affect certification bodies that have multiple accreditations with ASI. And the change, which I hope is welcome, is that the accreditation costs have decreased. The annual fixed costs have decreased for those of you who have multiple schemes with us. But also we have reduced complexity when it comes to the various technical scope that we have in RSPO. So hopefully you will see the developments as a positive one. Again, it is valid from 1st of March 2016. If you have any questions, please let me know, or my finance colleagues. So coming to the accreditation part, compared to January 2016, when we last presented these numbers, there isn't really a change, so no good and no bad news. We still have 21 accredited certification bodies, PNC and SCCS 7, supply chain only 11, and PNC only 3. We have a number of applicants in the pipeline, and we are very happy to see a continuous interest and a sort of a steady growth, and especially we are very happy to see applicants from Latin America, but also we had the first applicant from Africa, from Côte d'Ivoire. Again, these are geographies where I think more CEB capacity would help the RSPO program. And I think generally it would provide the RSPO program sort of more stability to have a sort of a broader CB population. We know that we are aware of 2 more interests from CABs based in Europe. And as I said, we do expect a continuous growth. In terms of accreditation decisions, no new accreditation in Q1. Scope extensions, we have 3 ongoing. One relates to BSI. which is a geographic scope extension. The second one relates to BV, and that's sort of a technical scope extension. If successful, then their scope will also include PNC. And the third one relates to Tuvriland, Indonesia, which is a geographic scope extension, which actually has been approved about 2 or 3 days ago. Suspensions, luckily none new. Obviously, we still have 2 ongoing one. Withdrawals and transfers, 0 at the moment, as far as I can remember. So this is where the RSPO has asked us to provide sort of lessons learned from some of these decisions, and I thought that instead of me talking about how we see these processes, I'm going to ask the certification bodies to talk about how they've seen some of these decisions and what would be the lessons learned and what would be the advice for the other CBs. So yes, I mean, if Control Union and Mutu doesn't mind, then maybe they can give us very briefly an update on the sort of the lessons learned from these processes. Yes? No? Control Union or Mutu? I don't know. Molly, thank you.
Hi, I'm Molly from Control Union. Okay, I would like to share some of the experience that which the mistakes resulting to the suspension to us. Firstly, the suspension was led only due to the NC deadline, which was not met in time. It's not nothing else that we never met the requirements or what. So according to that, however, the suspension has brought CU into more investigation on the certification holder as per corrective actions. As part of the corrective action, CU has revised most of the internal procedures to enhance as much as possible by identifying the gaps of the RSPO system documents, such as the sampling method on supply basis. So we have did lots of verification audits other than the real audits. And now I just would like to suggest few opinions from CU to ASI. We would like to suggest to consider an extension of timeline if the CAPS has submitted an evidence to close the major NC, but ASI considered it is insufficient. And also to share every CB's non-conformance to all CB's so that it can be taken as guidance and as learning curve to improve the rest of the CB's as well. And also we would like to suggest ASI to provide secondary email access to the ASI portal so that the notification can be received by other person in case the first person is not reachable, which this case was happened to us. So this is the case which leads to the mistakes that we have done. We didn't meet the deadline. That's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are taking notes of those and we are going to come back. I think some of it should be very, very easy to do, so clearly there should be no problem in us addressing, but we are going to double check. Okay, thank you. Just one comment on the overdue NCs. I think I mentioned this several times in every CB meeting. Please be aware of the deadlines. There are a few major non-conformities at the moment. Some of you have which are just became overdue, or they're likely to be overdue. So please take note of the deadlines because it will lead to suspension. We'll pass the phone to Octo, yes? For a yes?
Thank you, Laszlo. Hi, I'm Octo from Mutu Agung. Our experience now on is same like CUC. We are on suspension status, and we want to share our experience about. Oh, I have to face camera. Okay, it's kind of shock for us actually. Yes, it's also in line with the complaint. That's the what we shock about, because it's not the major come in based on compliance assessment. Okay, the compliance assessment is based on the issue, based on the complaint of the NGO. Yes. The spirit of the compliance assessment itself, not based on want to check the CB performance, but based on the issue raised at that time. However, it's good. It's a good implementation, I think, for compliance assessment. In the next future, I think we will be facing this regularly about having a measures about the compliance assessments, because we have to make a same perception. I'm criticism about the compliance assessment. It becomes a major raise a major issue for us, because the ASI auditor at that time doing audit for PNC. Yeah, we have interpretation, various interpretation during a few years behind when doing audit about the PNC. So ASI came for compliance assessment with the other interpretation itself from the PNC, maybe. So the suggestion is ASI assessors and CB auditors having maybe kind of like this workshop, having the same perception, especially for facing the compliance assessment for what? For minimize the risk of different of interpretation. And the second one is when we get suspension, the growers that we have certified is worried. They want to transfer the certificate to another CBs. So, but we will maintain our accreditation. So the experience is a lot of our clients asking, is it your suspension will be lifted or not? That's experience from us. So if this happened to the other CBs, I think almost we're facing this situation like SGS here. It's hard to transferring the certification. However, in the new standard, the new certification system, is it allow for another year? So it's a open. It's a chance for transferring the certificate for other CBs. So and the others is. Okay, a suggestion. As I have representative on each CB's nation, I mean having assessors, like Indonesian assessor. So sometimes me as Indonesian having difficulties, or not me, other auditors having difficulties to explain about the meaning of the words itself, or when we submitting our corrective action in the ASI portal, maybe it will help if you have ASI having that Indonesian assessors or Malaysians or other nations. That's our suggestion. So most of the experience is same like CC says, Holly said, and we hope that the suspension will be a lesson learned for us. Last week we having this the witness assessment. So at that time, we do our best. It's kind of our new experience to doing the best thing that of all these years of the assessing for the client. So with the situation that we are suspended and we want to lift the suspension, it's kind of hard. And the ASI also hard at that time. So very hard to convince. So it's our experience. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe just 2 points on that. So first of all, on the local capacity. So we are training and hopefully we will be signing off 2 new lead auditors who are based in the region. But if you know good Indonesian lead auditors, we are open to receive applications. And then with regards to the interpretation or the, not interpretation, but calibration between ASI and you, we are implementing the RSPO integrity project, and one of the key elements of that is that we will be sitting down with you once we identified which are the areas which need interpretation to sort of come to the same conclusion. So both of those will be followed up. Thank you very much. Okay, and lastly, Aryo, if you would want to say a couple of things about SGS, which obviously, actually before we move on, with regards to the 2 suspensions, so with regards to control union, based on a witness assessment, we still have a desk review to do, but we are hoping that we are going to be making a recommendation to lift the suspension for control union. And for you, for Mutu, I'm waiting for the outcome of the witness audit, and hopefully again we will be going into the same direction. So I just need to get the report. Aryo.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Aryo from AGS Indonesia. Yeah, actually this is a challenge for me especially. Like Octo was shocked during suspension. Me, I almost died actually when I was terminated, because there's few months join SGS. It's a big challenge for me to try to maintain the accreditation, but at least now it's positive way between SGS and ASI. We have a good correspondence right now during the new application and the accreditation process. And also try to actually invite me to explain, sharing the experience during the termination. What is the key message actually? So the first key message that I will share to you all, actually, please don't try this at home. Yeah? You have to follow what is written in the documentation. That's the key message. Whatever ASI procedure or RSPO documentation. So what is written, you have to follow. If you cannot follow, you have to ask and clarify back to ASI. Right? So we cannot try to provide justification. If let's say we got non-conformance from ASI, then we try to make our own justification. So actually that's not good. That's not one successful actually, that's one successful. So if anything non-conformance, you are not clear with non-conformance with ASI, you have to go back to ASI. Ask, is it okay for us to do this? Is it okay for us to do that? Something like that, right? So if anything about non-conformance, you have to refer back. It's a good you communicate with RSPO, but also you need to communicate with ASI. So that's a key message, yeah? So follow the what is written in the documents. And what we have experienced during the termination, actually, one thing actually I have a quick check with Guntar. We have some difficulty situation at the time because this was happened during a New Year celebration and maybe a holiday in part of the world. So actually this is a bit awkward for us. So we received a letter on the 6th January, it's in the evening. So we opened the letter on the 7th January. And the letter said we was terminated on the 31st December. So it's overlap 7 days. So yeah, I understand this will be, some confusion. Because actually Laszlo tried to give indication to SGS we will be terminated or not terminated before 31st December. But we were not, we don't know actually when is the effective date, right? So since then we try to complete everything we can, like technical review, issue certificate and all that, until 4th or 5th January. But unfortunately, the letters say you cannot do anything after 31st January. So that's a bit confusion, you know. So what we have a suggestion, maybe in the future, if you want to terminate someone, so you have to inform in advance before the effective date, right? So that's why that CB can, can prepare everything, can finalize and complete whatever pending issues, technical review, audit report, and etc. So that's the second one. So the third experience that we have is transferring the clients to other CB. That's another important, because there's a lot of technical issues during the transfer process. Like, for example, for those clients audited before the termination, this will be more complicated because we still have open major, we still have financial obligation, etc. And sometimes other CB asking, why you cannot close the open major, why this client haven't paid you, and many things, technically. So this would be more complicated situation for SGS and also the clients. Not only that, the impact also related to their stakeholders, client stakeholders. Let's say they want to sell, selling the product, but because of this termination, then the buyer immediately will cancel because they said your certification body already terminated, and what about your certificate? So it's a big impact actually at the time. So we need to explain, we need to inform all the stakeholders within the timeline actually. ASI give us only 5 days, not 5 working days, but 5 days. We receive on Tuesday, so maximum is a Monday, 11 January, we need to inform. So actually it's very tight for us to inform everybody, to the clients, to the stakeholders. So that's also the challenges for us. Okay, but at least after that process, after the withdrawal process, we keep in touch with RSPO and ASI on how moving forward. That's why ASI and RSPO coming out with the guidance, detailed guidance, and we try to convince ASI, please help our clients. Don't disturb our clients' interest in the trading. So that's why ASI is a good, have a good communication with us. And ASI also accept our application, which is a positive one. And we try to convince to ASI that this will not happen again in the future. And one more important thing, to avoid any repetition of our mistake, please, if you have someone who manages and responsible for SPO, don't let them audit. You must keep that person sit down in the office, maintain everything, the documentation, accreditation, monitor all the clients, the major deadline or whatever SI requirement. That person must be sitting down in the office. You cannot let them audit. I was experienced before in BSI, and I'm struggling with that. And also in SGS, I told my boss, please allow me to sit down in the office if you want to avoid any mistake again in the future. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the open comments and the transparency. And again, maybe I should have said that this is obviously, I asked these certification bodies not because I want to put them on the in the corner, but I honestly thought that it's good to for the certification bodies to talk about their experience. And we can sort of confirm that our assessments have sort of seen, for example, quite good improvements in SGS, so we look forward to continue that process. Okay, so thank you very much for those inputs. Another slide related to the accreditation processes. I'm not sure if you are aware of this Twitter message and also an article on the Red Monitor for about 10 days ago. So this is a sort of a pretend conversation. So this is what sort of stakeholders are increasingly aware of accreditation processes and how they can get involved and what accreditation means. So obviously they got hold of the fact that SGS Indonesia is an applicant now. So basically what they says, the RSPO tells SGS to stop doing something. Obviously this refers to the termination. And then SGS says, okay, we stopped. And then RSPO says, well, you're still doing it. And then SGS says, okay, sorry, we are still doing it. And then SGS asks, can we start again? And then RSPO says, oh yes, why not? Let's try again. So there is a scrutiny, and that there is a scrutiny, as I said, because I think stakeholders are increasingly aware of what accreditation means and how they can engage, but also because we are providing more information. So please be aware of this. Okay, so moving on to the next topic related to RSPO assessment. These are the various categories of the assessments that we are doing. As you see here, compliance is a new element. It should actually say that we have it should say that we have done 2 compliance assessments last year. But as of 2016, we are implementing compliance assessment as part of our normal surveillance, additionally to the witness assessments that we have done. These are the total number, which is planned for 2016, and these are the ones that have been already completed. We have scheduled 1 compliance assessment for each PNC accredited cab, so you will all be getting a compliance assessment this year. In terms of the outcome and the findings, as you can see, these are the sort of findings that we have raised this year. Compared to last year, I'm a bit concerned about the number of majors. So we have already raised 23 major non-conformities this year, even though we are maybe 1/5 or 1/4 through our plan compared to the majors that we have raised last year. So we seem to be raising more non-conformities. I looked at the details of where these non-conformities are coming from. Some of them are coming from the compliance assessment, so we are raising major non-conformities in our compliance assessments, but also we have quite a few in our office assessments that we have completed until now. So, as usual, I will be circulating the list of nonconformities and the normative references that we raise these nonconformities against. As you can see here, there's quite a wide spread. So about 50 normative requirements that we raise nonconformities against. And because there are training providers here in the room, my plea would be to also please look and maybe check how your training sort of responds to this, because obviously we would like these to be corrected. So this is where I wanted to ask Sukofindo Tutti, who is well known for being a bit shy and difficult to get to talk. Sukofindo was the first one to receive a compliance assessment from us this year. And the process wasn't easy, and I wanted to ask Tutti to give a bit of feedback about the compliance assessment and how they see the compliance assessments and sort of general advice for the other CBs.
Okay, during the meeting in Bandung, the ASI launched about the compliance audit, and I have a protest of that system because so far we don't know about the compliance audit. Based on ISO 9000 or 14, there is no audit by the accreditation body, and we are as a body just watching. It is look like, hey, I don't believe you, I will audit by myself. That's the point I get, but I think yeah, I have to accept it that because we are accredited by SI, and during the compliance audit with the assessor of SI, we came to one of our clients, and then I saw everything. We watch how they audit, and then that's the point, positive plus that I get from the growers. They know now that there is no hiding. There is no point to hiding something. Maybe during the audit by the CB, they can hide something, but the SI can see if they audit. They can see everything. And also from the growers, now they understand that the RSPO is very seriously regarding the environment and social aspect. They really try to find out the high risk, like pollution like HEP, worker welfare, the salary, the housing, the water facility. So the CB can hide maybe something, but now the SI can see it by themselves. The CB also now be aware that we should audit all the criteria. The CB also now to be challenged again about the competencies, the professionalism, and especially for the integrity. And hope with this compliance audit can ensure about the sustainability of the environment, worker welfare, and yeah, all aspects. So not only business. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And something that I wanted to mention also maybe related to these findings is that one reason why we might be seeing an increase is because, and I'm guessing it's not a secret, we have talked about this before, but we are trying to implement a risk-based accreditation system. So we are actually doing an analysis of certificates, and we are trying to, and we are also talking to stakeholders, and we are trying to go to places where we feel that there is a risk of non-compliance. So that might be also maybe an indication of why they see more non-conformities.
I forget something. I think that the ASI should make the standard when the compliance audit should be done. What's the criteria? And also should be the compliance audit should be in charge in the contract, and also how to conduct the compliance. Let's say that mandates, how many mandates, and also the suitable lead assessor, and then local expert. Because in my experience, we found out the local expert from Malaysia who doesn't understand the regulation of Indonesia, and also how the local expert should conduct. He is a local expert, not as an auditor. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Take note of those. Okay, so next slide. I wanted to quickly run through the key themes for these nonconformities. So as I said, as I mentioned, there's 50 normative references that we use to raise these nonconformities. But this jumps out because I think we raised about 7 or 8 nonconformities against this one, and then there's a few which against we raised 3, and then there's basically sort of a spread. So this one relates to grading of nonconformities, not closing nonconformities on time, not identifying nonconformities. So it's a range of issues that relate to identifying, closing nonconformities. The next one relates to stakeholder consultation. So we raised a number of findings against this. So please be aware of this, and please make sure that your assessments are in line with standard requirements. The next one relates to surveillance assessments, not conducted in time, reports not submitted in time. Again, I think we heard about this from RSPO in January, so please be aware of this. The next one relates to surveillance audits and the evaluation that you're doing during the surveillance audits and the nonconformities that you have identifying during surveillance audits. Again, a number of findings have been raised against this normative reference. And then the sort of final point that I wanted to make on this is, I think it was Momoli who has mentioned that it would be good if we would share the nonconformities. And we have announced in January that we will be publishing all the PNC reports by ASI from November 2015 onwards. So at the moment there are about 6 RSPO PNC reports on our website. So I checked, okay, how many times these reports have been downloaded, just to see if you have looked at other CB's reports. And you can see here, for example, 2 downloads, this had 12 downloads, so obviously lots of people were interested in Sukofindo's assessment because there have been 12 downloads. But then this one from PNG, it's a very interesting assessment that we have conducted on BSI, only 2 downloads, and both of those downloads was me. So obviously you haven't downloaded these reports. So the report is there. Please look at these reports. I hope that, obviously the idea is that there's sort of lesson learned and improvement, not just for the CB in question, but also for the other certification bodies. And I think also NGOs will probably pick this up, and there's going to be more, hopefully more downloads. So the reports for the PNC, witness and compliance are on the website. So a few interesting findings that came up in the sort of last quarter. There was an audit which raised a non-conformity because the bulking station was not audited during the PNC audit. The RSPO has came out with an interpretation on how to deal with bulking station following this audit. Minimum wage requirements. We obviously have a very long history now from last September on this issue, and we still see reports in which you state these workers have not got the minimum wage, and there's no further explanation on what you have done with the information. There's no non-conformity. So we don't know why you have not raised a non-conformity. We just don't understand how this issue is still not addressed, and why are we still seeing reports like this. If we need more interpretation, then let's sit down with the RSPO. From our point of view, it's pretty clear. There should be no reason why this should not be clear. And because of the scrutiny, please be aware of it. Then this relates to, the third bullet point relates to the PNG assessment for BSI. And the reason why I put it here is because in my view, it affects other certificate holders probably in PNG. So again, please check the finding, and please consider it if it's valid or not in your case. Certification activities outside the accredited scope. I thought it's sort of pretty straightforward, but basically you have a geographic scope that you're accredited for. Please don't do audits outside of this geographic scope. And that's also true for NPP. So your NPP geographic scope is the same as your PNC geographic scope. If you do audits outside this scope, it is basically a breach of your accreditation agreement with us. We don't really have a choice but to withdraw the accreditation because it's not a non-conformity. We have raised quite a few non-conformities related to NPP, and there is a number of issues there, from the qualification of the personnel conducting the assessment to guidance, checklist, procedures, record keeping. We have also seen copy and paste reports. We are trying to, with RSP at the moment, the new version of the RSP PNC systems, to strengthen the requirements related to NPP, to basically give a bit more teeth to the accreditation requirements. So again, please check the findings that there might be in these reports related to this, and follow up. Okay, so other issues that I wanted to mention briefly. As I already mentioned, we have 2 new RSPO lead auditors under sign-off. Hopefully, we will complete them in the next quarter. The RSPO integrity project, the main components will be 1 compliance assessment for each cab, and then we will sit down with you for calibration. This is ongoing. RSPO lead auditor registry, we have done the preparation work. Hopefully in the next quarter, as announced in January, we will actually roll it out, and you will be asked to submit the information for it. We have started the review of the RSPO interpretation forum. At the moment, we basically want to clean it up, and we want to have interpretation questions only in RSPO, so I don't think there's any point to have questions about what is palm oil, and is palm oil good, is palm oil bad. So we want to have questions which are purely interpretation questions, and we would like to have more search functions, so it's much easier for you to search in the database if you're interested in something. And then we are also working with RSP at the moment to update their complaints procedure. So probably additionally to the normal sort of day-to-day accreditation business, these are the sort of the key things that keep us busy. And as always, relevant information is on our website, and obviously you know how to reach us. So thank you very much for your patience. Questions?
Yeah, one question. When ASI does PNC audits, do they also cover group certification audits?
We haven't done yet. In theory could, but we haven't done one yet.
Okay, I think that's an area that I think personally we have experience and auditors have experience. There's been a lot of, again, interpretation of the document. There's a new document coming out. Which reference do we look at? Sometimes we are not in agreement with the auditors as well. So I think that's an area that we need to look at.
Thank you. More questions, please, Robert. Should I give you my microphone?
I referred to one of your slides just now talking about minimum wage, and I referred to Jan's checklist talking about living wage. How are we going to define these two items in this aspect? Because I don't know how many of us here in the room really understand what is a living wage, and how do we actually determine from a minimum wage to become a living wage. I actually have a challenging questions on this to my CB in Belgium. I says, yes, living wage can be actually applicable throughout in Europe, but not in this part of the world. How do we define that actually that the workers that we are interviewing have sufficient income in terms of what they're earning now on a minimum wage, like in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, throughout the region we talk about minimum wage. So how do you do it to ensure the living wage is there? So probably we have to change the terminology back into minimum wage rather than living wage in the checklist. Because if I were to do it myself, I'm using a very simple factor, using the Hayes management system to do the living wage, which is actually roughly about, for a worker is roughly about 1.5 or 1.6 times, you see, or two, that's around that to do it. For a senior manager, we're talk about maybe up to 2.5, 3 times, you see, of the wage of the person is getting now, you see. So we have to define that clearly, how we talk about minimum wage and living wage here. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, it's, do you want to answer or not? I mean, we have, I know that there is a FinWatch report coming soon, and they are talking about this issue, and their opinion is that the minimum wage in Malaysia does not equal living wage. So that's going to be the conclusion of, one of the conclusions of the report. Obviously, I have my personal view about it, but I don't think that's sort of particularly relevant. So I don't know, Salah, what do you do?
But right, the national interpretation, they should come up with their definition of a decent living wage, yeah? Some NI has come up with the definition, but most does not. And there are two documents that you can refer to when defining decent living wage. One is the ISIL document. I don't know whether we put it on our web or not. Yeah, ISIL documents, and the other one is the WHO document, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, ILO documents. ILO documents, yeah? Correct. So those two documents are available for you to help you define decent living wage, yeah? But yeah, the job of defining by right is supposed to be the NI, because PNC 2013 specifically requests NI to define what decent living wage is all about. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, I don't know, is there more questions about, for example, the Malaysian situation, about what is the, because as I said, we still see reports when you note that somebody gets 400 something ringgit and there's no non-conformity. And we just have to be very clear that it's something, an area that we are definitely looking at this year. So if there's any sort of lack of, I don't know, if you think that needs to be more clarification, more guidance, then please ask the RSPO, because it's just simply not acceptable to see a report when you note that the minimum wage is not met, but there's no further explanation about why that has not led to a non-conformity, or why, how you have sort of dealt with that issue. So,
yeah, minimum wage, of course, you have to follow the law, Malaysian law, and then they have system of calculating minimum wage based on daily rates and so on. Yeah. So the auditors must be well versed with the calculation, and on our part, RSPO will be coming out with training on this. Under human rights, we have what we call human rights working group who are working on these elements. Yeah? So when this the group and the task force working under the group are ready, that they will then carry out trainings for everyone on these elements.
okay. Thank you. Tutti, please.
For minimum wage, so far I found out that the RSPO has no definitely standard how to make it comply or not. But in Indonesia there's a specific standard already been there, but not touched yet by RSPO or ASI. There's a minimum wage in Kabupaten, and how they, let's say 100% can be maximum on cash by them. There's some kind of deduction that permitted by the government. So the rule is clear. Also for the how to make the overtime payment. But so far I didn't found that our standard still cash on it. That's why many workers in in Palm still get the payment minimum less than minimum wage, because the deduction and also the overtime, also especially for reduction. Hopefully that the any time that the RSPO or CB conduct the audit, the local experts should be there, so that can ensure the minimum payment, the minimum salary will be met. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine, but I think what it sounds like, it would be good to have a calibration or some sort of guidance for all the CBs that are active in Indonesia, because obviously we don't want sort of different.
Yeah, some of these elements are actually tabulated inside the draft national interpretation for Indonesia. Yeah, but as you know that the Indonesian NI is not yet been endorsed by the board. There are some problems here and there, so we are hoping that this Indonesian NI can be discussed and adopted as soon as possible. Yeah? There is a planned meeting between the standing committee and the Indonesian Grower Caucus, second week of May. JACA is facilitating that, so we're really hoping that something can be done, and then this NI can be adopted or endorsed by the board. But at this point of time, any work or any audit in Indonesia is supposed to be based on the generic PNC, because there is no NI yet for Indonesia. Yeah? So this is something that I hope that CB can go back and talk to grower, for the grower to come to the table to have discussion on this, because the study committee is trying to get this done, but the grower is quite hesitant because of the history of the NI progress in Indonesia. They're not happy because it took so long to get it done, but of course the standing committee has their own way of doing things, and standing committee is an institution within RSPO that needs to be respected. So yeah, again, I mean the CB, when you talk to the grower, can you please go and tell them how important it is for them to come to the table, to have discussion, and get to the bottom of this problem that we have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Okay. I will to ask to you about the bulking. Interest the.
A bit louder because I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. I will ask about the type of bulking. This is bulking covered in PNC.
Yes.
Okay. Please explain type of bulking, because bulking is one company. Direct is okay, it is included in PNC. But one company, entities have the subsidiary, example, 20 subsidiary. But all subsidiary submit to bulking. Okay, so I don't know, this is include PNC or the supply chain, please.
So I think this is the discussion. I don't know, do you want to talk about it, Tuti, or not? So I think the bulking station was used by how many? Exactly, more than one company. One was certified, two were not certified. And then, there was a discussion. Now there is a RSPO interpretation which sort of clarifies under which circumstances you have to audit and how the bulking station. Yes? It has nothing to do about the distance. Nothing to do about the distance. Yes. Well, the issue was that things were sent to the bulking station, and then from there on, way bills and transport documents were issued, and this place was not covered by any sort of RSPO certificate. And you, as a CB, you didn't go during the PNC assessment. So how do you know what's going on at the bulking station?
Let's say that the company already have the documentation from the mill. They already have the delivery notes and documentation dispatch, and they send it to the bulking, which is in their group. Is it means that now CB should visit the bulking?
Yes.
So every PNC means that PNC standard saying that the scope is mill and estate. Mills means that also bulking.
Yes, that's what the interpretation says.
So far, previously we only conduct the audit in the mill itself and estate.
Yes.
But now should be visit.
Well, not now, as of 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
So there has been an interpretation posted on the RSPO Interpretation Forum, which I assume you all read. I'm not sure what to say. What else to say?
Yeah.
Maybe I will give additional information about the case of bulking. The case of bulking, like Tuti said, is same like what I have. There is a bulking under one legal entity in the mill, yeah. But the bulking also used by others, group, under one group. So if we assess the bulking under PNC, so how to how we also consider, because they also use for others.
Well, so I don't know, it depends if the others are certified or not, and the interpretation clarifies that if they are, then there needs to be an agreement about which CB, as far as I can remember, which CB audits the bulking station. But there needs to be some sort of audit by one CB, and this needs to be documented about which CB. So, you know, if it's used by 5 or 6 certificate holders, there's probably no point for 5 or 6 CBs to go to this bulking station every second month. What we would want to have the RSPO is requiring you to decide among the CBs which CB is auditing the bulking station.
I think we have to discuss this because, frankly speaking, we don't get a clear direction, definition, when should be visit bulking, what areas should be checking out, and what, PNC or SCG, what if it is the bulking content of other groups or within one group. I think we need the extra.
If the bulking station has a supply chain certificate, then it's the easiest thing. Clear, you know, then it has a supply chain certificate, fine, you don't have to be concerned. But if it doesn't have a supply chain certificate and it's used by several, then somebody needs to go.
But they are going to get certified by SCG.
They are going to have the next SCG. Yeah, they are planning to get the certificate, SCG certificate. The first they want the PNC only, and the next they say that they are going to certify for SCG.
What happens in the meantime?
What happens?
In the meantime?
Meantime?
What happens
during this time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, possibly we want to discuss this offline a bit later. But frankly speaking, you look at other scheme, ISCC for example, yeah? Every single facilities must be audited, yeah? Including bulking. So I think RSPO is not unique. All scheme follow the same route, but our decision was to include bulking under PNC rather than supply chain, because I thought that will be easier. Because if you put under supply chain, it will be more complicated, yeah? So put it under PNC, then it will be easier for the auditor, easier for the company. Yeah? Maybe extra cost for the company, but the process will be much simpler compared to if you put bulking for under supply chain. So I think, Ian, anything to say?
Well, I'm very happy to have this discussion offline, by the way. You know, because there is a reply on the interpretation forum, and there is a reference there to the supply chain certification system standard document, 5 point something, when I remember well. Look at the RIF. I just look at it open on my laptop at the moment. Right. Laszlo, thanks very much.